Hello, Home Slices is Kiera with Home Slice Adulting, coming to you with a review, I guess, for the movie Queen and Slim. First off, I want to say thank you for clicking on this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I want to apologize to my subscribers because I have not been as on it in the past few weeks as I normally would be. I had some additional things going on, traveling for Thanksgiving, classes coming to a close. This upcoming week is finals week, so I've kind of been busy. I haven't even recorded my review or even watched the second part of the reunion for Love and, I was about to call it Love and Hip Hop, for Love and Marriage, Huntsville. And it's just been a stressful kind of 2 weeks for me, and I haven't been on top of things, so I want to apologize for that. But instead of doing my normal driving home series, which I like to do every Friday, which I've missed for the past 2 weeks, again because of other stuff going on in my life, I guess I'd come to you all with a review or my thoughts on the movie Queen and Slim. So I will admit that the buzz around Queen and Slim is the reason why I wanted to see it more so than watching the previews myself. I've spoke about this before, but there's something about like protecting my energy, protecting my spirit, protecting my space, where when it comes to things that I know will bring up these nasty, ugly feelings about being black, about being a woman, about being a black woman in professional spaces, having these difficult conversations is just so, or having these thoughts are just so draining on the mind that a lot of times I just like to avoid it, just to protect my energy, and to protect my mental space. So when certain movies come out that deal with slavery, that deal with inequality, police brutality, I am very cautious about whether or not I watch and observe and take those movies in, because of the space that I want to be in. Every day that I wake up, I know that I am black, and every day has a new set of challenges, whether they're at work, where I'm one of a few black women, or whether I'm at school where I'm the only black woman. Challenges arise, and it's like I have my own life challenges. I don't need to take on the additional challenges and the feelings that it brings up about these, whether they are fictional or real life characters. I haven't gone to see Harriet. Don't know that I will. I actually have a few feelings about that movie, but the point is that the buzz and the ratings around Queen and Slim was so good that it actually convinced me to watch it, despite what my original thoughts were about maybe not. So I will say the movie turned out, first off, spoiler alert, okay? So if you have not seen the movie, don't watch this, okay? We're gonna count to 5, we're gonna sing to 5, so that you can either pause this video or you can navigate away, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so time to move on. So, Queen and Slim was written by Lena Waithe. Shout out to Lena Waithe, out here being, black girl magic, black girl rocks. Out here, I'm under the impression that she's queer as well. So black and queer, and just being herself, creating, doing well. Shouts out to you. I love that people like Lena Waithe and Issa Rae and other, black content creators, people from other disadvantaged groups are coming out and making projects and productions and films and all the kind of stuff on a national level. I really love and appreciate that, and I think that is another aspect to why I supported the movie. So that's thing number 1. Thing number 2 is, from the previews that I saw, I thought that the film was going to be about these two vigilantes that killed a police officer and are on the run and, you know, have support from, you know, people in the Black community, and it turned out not to be that. So I thought that it was great that it kind of humanized these characters who fell into this situation where it was their first Tinder date. They didn't know each other, so it's not like they, you know, were in a relationship and decided to go rogue, or they were two criminals who met, you know, in the midst of committing a crime. We have a educated lawyer and we have a working class male who go out on a Tinder date, and on the first night they have a Tinder date, he gets pulled over by a police officer who has a history of shooting unarmed Black people. He goes over the top, and let me tell y'all something. I used to work at a police department. For those of you who don't know, I was a dispatcher, and I feel two ways about police officers. Knowing police officers and getting to see things from their point of view, I have some sympathy for them. But as a Black person who is always Black and can't quit a job as a police officer, I have less sympathy for them. Like, nobody puts a gun to your head and says, vow to protect and serve, or I'm gonna kill you. You volunteer to take a job as a police officer. So you need to take seriously what that means. Having the ability to take somebody's life because you're scared is not acceptable. It's not acceptable. Invest in more training. Invest in hiring people who are qualified. When I tell y'all police officers get hired that should never have authority, that are more suited for other jobs, there are people who become police officers because it's easy. And I think, was it Colin Kaepernick that made the point that there are, you know, people who are beauticians or hairdressers have to be in school longer than police officers do, because police officers are in such high need that they just let anybody do it. And then the other problem with police officers is that their loyalty to each other is like to a fault. That they are so loyal to the idea of doing police work that they will stand behind a crooked cop because he's a cop. The crooked cop who gets killed, like there's a lyric in a song called Crack Rock by Frank Ocean, and in the song he says, crooked cop, dead cop, how much dough can you push for me? Crooked cop, dead cop, no good for community. Effing pig gets shot, 300 men will search for me, but my brother gets popped and no one hears a sound. No one hears the rounds. And it's about protecting police instead of protecting citizens. And that's problematic. You have a guy who's not supposed to be a police officer in the first place, who pulls a gun on someone when he shouldn't have pulled a gun on someone. They won't even have arguments with you about protocol. Is it proper protocol to pull a gun on somebody for no reason? Is it proper protocol to pull a gun on someone who does not have a weapon in the particular instance when they're at the traffic stop? It's not. Police officers won't even engage in that because one of the requirements of being a police officer is that you have to have such a loyalty to the idea of being a police officer and the ideology of what that means, and this brotherhood or personhood. And it's like, tomorrow you can quit. You can quit being a police officer tomorrow, okay? I'm Black every day. I'm Black every day. That's why I don't like the whole Blue Lives Matter thing. There is no such thing as a blue life. You're not an alien from Avatar. You're not part of the Blue Man Group. There's no such thing as a blue life. You can quit tomorrow. It's not a life. It's not a life. It's not a life if you can quit your job tomorrow and not be a police officer. You have the option, the privilege, and you take on the occupational risk of dying when you choose to deal with criminals. So who's supposed to protect me from you? What the heck? So I'm getting way too much. I'm getting off topic. Anyways, again, there's something to be said for a person who genuinely does their job as a police officer, who genuinely tries to help people. There's something to be said for police officers who are just in the line of duty, doing what they're supposed to do, and they end up dying. That's the risk that they assume when they take the job. But there's something to be said for good police officers who are good parts of their community, who help out, and who don't terrorize disadvantaged peoples. People are the worst. Anyways, there needs to be some type of revolution when it comes to police work, but I don't know how soon that will happen. Anyways, they fall into this situation. We have these people who clearly aren't criminals, because my boyfriend and I were counting the number of mistakes that the male character made, and I can't remember their names. I think the woman's real name was Andrea, who we'll just call Queen because that's the name of the movie, and then we'll call the guy Slim. So anyway, Slim makes a number of mistakes in the movie, okay, and so does Queen. Originally, Queen was not very likable to me. I didn't really care for her. I didn't really like her way of being. I think that there was something that I actually disliked about the movie, is that she kind of fell into like this trope for me, that there's this hardened black woman that can only be softened by the love of a man or some shit like that. Like that's what it fell to. I think that both of the characters acted very well in the movie. I thought that the storyline was mostly good, but the mistakes that the characters made, I thought were very silly, but I think also goes to show the point that these are not criminals. Like, no criminal would ever make the mistake of giving the gun to the person that they're holding up. Stupid. No criminal would risk calling their dad on a landline when they are fugitives from the national government. They cross state lines. It's FBI-ish now, right? No, none of them would make that mistake. I think some of the side stories also were kind of bothersome. I was particularly bothered by the young man who was just like so influenced by Queen and Slim that he killed a black police officer. I think that disturbed me the most. And I think one of the great things about movies like this one is that it shows different points of view. A lot of times we have in the media, in movies and TV, we have this narrow sense of who people of color are. We have the Indian guy who's really smart in IT. We have the Asian guy who's really smart and good at math. We have the black woman who will tell it like it is and snap fingers and roll heads, and you're afraid of her when she gets angry, but she's also this nurturing woman who takes care of slave masters' babies and all that stuff. And she, doesn't have a family of her own, and she's a magical Negro, or scary black man who's out here committing crimes, or we have the Hispanic male who is a drug dealer, drug lord, in Cuba, and tortures people and all that kind of stuff. You have these narrow tropes, these narrow versions, these narrow stereotypes of who people are. And in this movie, we get to see that there's a spectrum of different people, both white and black. We have black people who are congratulating them for being vigilantes and for killing this cop who had killed a black person for no reason just a year ago, or a year prior. Then you have people who take it above that. Like, I love what you all are doing, and I'm going to emulate you by killing a black police officer who didn't have a gun, who was actually just being nice and telling him to go home. That was the most peaceful disruption of a protest that I, had ever seen. And for him to take a gun out on somebody who looked like him on somebody who was being nice and genuine to him and just asking him to go home and just killing the man is absolutely wrong. And so you have these people who have these extremist ideals, who want to be remembered, who don't care who it is. They will just kill somebody. They don't care if this person provoked you to the point where you had to defend yourself. It's only about being remembered. And now he kills a black person. A black family has to suffer because some black boy took what Queen and Slim had to do out of necessity and turned it into a moment for him to be idolized, and, you know, created this extreme idea. So you have this person who's all the way over here with this extremist type of thing going on. And then the son's dad, you have this guy who had charged them a lot more money than he probably should have to fix their car. He charged him a lot more money to fix their car because he disagreed with what they were doing. You all created an excuse for this police officer to shoot. Or to take out his gun. I think that Queen should have stayed in the car. She should have just stayed in the car, but she was using her lawyership and, you know, her law degree and her education. And there's also the possibility maybe she did save his life. Maybe the police officer would have shot him for no reason. Who knows what would have happened? But the point is that you have these differing points of view. Some people like what you're doing. Some people like what you're doing a little too much. Some people don't like it at all. Some people will claim to like what they're doing and then turn you in. There are white people who are understanding and will hide you, very Underground Railroad-esque, and who will hide you in their homes to make sure that you are safe. There are others who think about turning you in. There's just so many different points of view in the movie, and I think that that's important for us to not pigeonhole black people or even white people, you know, not pigeonhole people into these ideas of who we think they are, what we think they are based on groups that they belong to. And so I thought it was really important that they had the differing points of view in the movie. Again, I think Queen and Slim made some silly mistakes along the way. The whole hanging out of the window thing, the whole riding the horses thing. I thought that there was some comic relief in the movie a little bit. I like that they showed the whole black love story type of thing. Let me see what else. They shared some of the girl's backstory about her, you know, her first case being getting her uncle off for accidentally killing her mom. I don't know, just the idea that we have these two people from different walks of life that come together under these circumstances who really didn't know each other beforehand. I think that was a welcome surprise to see that these were not vigilantes just out here killing cops left and right. Overall, I enjoyed the movie. I obviously cried at the end when both of them were killed, and just seeing the part where Gail is reporting on, you know, what happened to them, and the officers claiming that they had no choice but to shoot because these people were armed, and just knowing what really happened. I hope that causes people to really examine what they hear from the media and from the police. Police have every incentive to make it look like they're doing the right thing even when they don't. So we just have to make sure that we are cognizant and understanding of the fact that everything that we hear in the media, everything that we hear from the police is not necessarily true. They can create a lie that justifies what they did. We know Queen and Slim didn't have a gun. We know that. And to see that idiot with the gold teeth counting money as the news is, you know, saying that they lost their lives, that's blood money. hurt my soul. I was crying. I just couldn't take it. Because when I look at these characters, even though I, doubt that I will ever be in a situation similar to that, when I see these characters, I see me. I see my boyfriend. I see my dad. I see my black brothers and my black sisters, my mom, my aunts, my uncles. When I see these characters, I see my family. I see myself. I see people in my community. And it's just hurtful to know that there's really the feeling of there being no escape, of in the end seeing that airplane and actually thinking that they were going to make it, and then watching the police pull up behind them and knowing that they're not going to make it. And I was looking at some of the reviews on Fandango, and one of them was saying, well, they gave it a lower rating because they didn't like the end. And it's like, well, you must not like reality. Because in reality, how many black people who maybe would have killed a police officer in self-defense would have not either gotten the book thrown at them or gotten killed? Where we've seen white people resist police officers, curse at police officers, fight with police officers, and get out of jail the next day and survive and live to fight to see another day. This just lack of understanding that there is for black people, this lack of mercy, this lack of equity in your mind. What makes you think that a white boy or white woman who acts badly, who curses at police officers, who fights at police officers, who resists police officers, deserve to live any more than a black person doing the same thing or doing less? And that's part of the reason why I wasn't interested in the movie, is because a part of me just gets infuriated knowing the treatment of me and my people. Knowing that every day I have to fight stereotypes. I have to fight to not be the person that they expect me to be. I have to stifle who I am, change the way I talk, change the way I dress, change the way I do my hair, so that people don't view me as a threat. Because if I'm a threat, that means they will try to eliminate me. That means that they will stop me from doing the things that I want to do in my life. It's the worst feeling. It's just the worst feeling to know that this is your lot in life, at least for now. And then try to figure out ways to change it. And then be faced with the fact that there are still laws in place. There are still remnants and relics that are in place that hold you back even further. And to try to overcome them. And to try to make it better for people that are coming after you. For your own children, for your younger siblings. It's like the weight of the world. And even as an educated black woman, Queen was killed the same way Slim was. The same way anyone else who has been, murdered by the police was killed. And it's unfortunate. So anyway, overall, while I enjoyed the movie, I enjoyed the story, I enjoyed the cinematography, that aspect of it, it just infuriated me, is what I'll say. And I think that while it's a story that needed to be told, even as a fictional story, I think that the job of the movie, and I hope that it's what this movie accomplishes, is to hold up a mirror to the way policing happens in this country, and how we criminalize black bodies, and how we should have the same standards for people who commit crimes, and that we should examine the police forces and their policies and their protocols, and how to effectively discipline police officers who obviously aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing for a certain group of people, and how we stop police officers from having so much loyalty to somebody who clearly is not cut out to have a job where they protect and serve every person, regardless of what group that they belong to. Woman, man, black, Hispanic, trans, religious backgrounds, it doesn't matter. So this has been my very long-winded review. Again, I'm happy I went to see the movie, even though my energy is like messed up. I just spent the past 2.5 days at a conference called the People of Color Conference. It's for people who work in independent schools, which is a euphemism for private schools. So it's a chance for people of color to get together and have discussions about how to operate in spaces and how to educate students who operate in spaces that were designed to effectively keep them out. Because we know that private schools were created as a way for white students who could afford it, or white families that could afford it, to not have to send their send their students to schools with black kids, as far as immigration goes. So So I guess I'm kind of riled up, y'all. Spending 2.5 days having difficult conversations, nonetheless, with people who look like me, which was great. Getting to see so many black people in Seattle was a treat. I'll say that. Seattle got blacker for 2.5 days, so that was nice to be in community with so many people who look like me and who had the same kind of understanding of working in the same type of institution. Was wonderful. But it is very draining to have these conversations about how race and gender and sexual preference, sexual orientation, talk about gender inequality, all those types of things, and or non-binary equality, how all those things affect you on a day-to-day basis, and trying to figure out how to overcome those things. So anyways, I again enjoyed the movie. On a scale of A to F, I'll give it an A. I think it was great. It doesn't get an A+ for me just because it stirred up so many emotions and stuff like that. I don't think I'll ever want to see it again because it'll probably just enrage me further. But it gets an A for me. Shout out to Lena Waithe and all the other people who had a hand in putting this movie together. And thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Tell me what you thought about the movie. Do you agree or disagree with some of the things that I was saying? Put it down. Just be respectful, okay? Thanks again. Peace out, home slices.